My grandmother, who lived in the toll house where I was born, in Drybridge Street, she worked for the Crompton Roberts family. And when they went to London for the winter season, she would keep an eye on Drybridge House. Right. So, and the children, my father and his brothers and sisters, when the family were away in London, they would often go over to Drybridge House and play in the garden. So that's my first connection. And she always spoke about them, but unfortunately I didn't take all that much notice because, you know, it's the same old story. But that's how we started. When I was a child and lived in Drybridge Street, we used to play in Drybridge Street, and a family opposite, the girl there used to skate, roller skate, up and down the street, you know, practice her roller skating. Can you imagine that happening these days? And we used to play ball and hopscotch and skip, all in you know, on the road. No cars parked there, were hardly any cars parked there. But the one thing that used to park there on a Saturday afternoon was a steamroller, which had been up to the woods to pick up logs, tree trunks, which were being transferred to the local sawmills to be dealt with. And he would pull up outside what was the Britannia Inn, but is now the Bolte. They would pull up there with the steam coming out of the chimney there to have their glass of beer, I guess, before they knocked off for the Saturday afternoon. And the old blacksmith shop was there, and it was a blacksmith shop when I lived there. And of course the horses used to come and be taken in, and we as children used to go in the blacksmith shop and help pump the bellows. Well, we just went there and played. There was nothing about you can't go here, you can't go there. We were just able to go out there and play in the brook, as there was, you know, and the river, swim in the river. The people that kept the Britannia, called Miles, she was a very kind lady, and this Sam didn't have a home as such, and he had a bed in her skittle alley, which has been pulled down now, but at the back of the Britannia, or the Bolte, there was a wooden skittle alley. And he had a bed at the end there, and we as kids used to go and play in this skittle alley and with his bed. And that was his home. And she used to feed him. I mean, she's such a kind lady. And you can imagine what a blacksmith was like, you know, filthy dirty. They've got the well, they've done up that building next to the Britannia, haven't they, which was falling down. Well, I think the old Meredith family, old generations back, lived in that little cottage, because you can see it was a cottage, can't you? It's got a door and windows. And then it was taken over by the grandchildren, and it ran as a builder's yard, which was Meredith and Son. And they used to, they were also the local undertakers, and they actually built the coffins by hand in those days. And my gran used to hear them hammering away early hours of the morning, you know, making the coffins ready for because they weren't mass produced in those days. And one of the Meredith, he was the carpenter there and actually built the coffins. And then it lay empty for a while, and now it's been done up, which is quite nice. And then if you go on up, you come to where the car park is now. Well, that used to be called Barber's Field, and that's where we played as kids. And the next field over, which is at the back of Home Bargains, you know, on the other side of the river, that was called Perkins Meadow, which I'm sure all those names have gone now, which has now become part of Vaux, because of course there were hedges which have disappeared. That's why you can't see. I lived in 31 Drybridge Street, in the black and white ones, you know, and the worst flood I think was 47, when it came 6 steps up the staircase, and we all lived upstairs for I don't know, 3 days or something. So when it got dark, you'd hear all this splashing, where the buckets were being emptied into the street. What else could you do? Well, to be honest, as children you sort of accepted these things, but I don't ever remember being worried about it. And when the flood was coming up, we'd be sitting on the front door step to see it coming up, and then it would come in through the back, because of course the river would flood and come through the back door. And people used to stand on their doorstep. Well, you never see anybody on a doorstep now. You didn't really go to the top of town very much. You sort of kept your area. And I always remember that when they built the new estate, the old estate, but which new in our day, the first one on Rockfield Road, they built this lovely new playground. And I went up there to have a go on the slide, and this lad was on the slide with me, and he looked at me and he says, "What are you doing up here?" Because I lived in Drybridge Street, you see. It was that sort of, well, there wasn't conflict, but you just accepted that was your area. You know where the Nag's Head is? Well, that area, I never went in that area until I was about 20. The Drybridge Street is unrecognisable, and lots of other streets, I'm sure. I think the car really is necessary, but I think it's been the downfall or the change, because it's just everywhere, isn't it? It's only now I'm realising, well, a while ago, you know, thinking, God, what we've lost. And no, I can't get through to people to do anything about it. This is so frustrating.